Hey, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Around the world on the interwebs at MichaelDukesShow.com. That's where you find the podcast, the live stream, links to our social media sites, all the stations and everything else that you can find. Also, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on said stations and translators. Welcome to it. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Thank you for coming in and joining us. The Thursday edition, the post-legislative session edition of the program. Today is the day that we line out everything that went down over the last few hours of yesterday's legislative session and kind of give you the bite of what's happening and what goes on from here. It's well, anyway, it's just one of those things. What are you going to do? It kind of falls back on what my recommendation was from yesterday, which was we just advocate to get this thing over, get it done, get this year, move on, and now focus all of our attention on moving forward, which would include two things. One, the possibility of a constitutional convention coming up on this year's ballot. I believe that it is something now that I grudgingly am saying that we need to support because I think it's the only way that we're going to be able to fix what is fundamentally broken in Juneau is with the use of a constitutional convention, even with all its risks and everything else. I mean, again, I am still very, very leery of opening up the Constitution of the state of Alaska to special interests and everything else, but I think at this point, it is the only thing that's going to stop this. Secondly, the other thing we need to focus on is replacing those in the legislature who have shown time and time again that they do not have the interests of the citizens at heart. Instead, they are focusing on the protectionism of the state spend, of the public economy. That the private economy means nothing to them as long as they protect the public economy. And so those are the two things that I think we need to now start to focus on. And again, with trepidation, I open up my support for the Constitutional Convention. With a reminder that, of course, the citizens of the state still have to vote on any changes that are proposed, et cetera, et cetera. But we've seen in the past what a cheap date Alaska can be. We saw what happened, for example, on ballot measure number 2 and how we were bamboozled in that arena and in that, just a few $1 million, was enough to sway many Alaskans. And, again, I've run across people who voted for it. Just a few. Most of the people that I know voted against it. So that's the first thing that makes me go, The second thing is that the few that voted for it were like, what do you mean it did that? What do you mean? What do you mean it did? Well, I thought it was just to keep dark money out. Yes. The irony is not lost on me that we used dark money to propagate a propaganda campaign that said that we were eliminating dark money from Alaska. The irony of that is it is definitely not lost on me. So we're going to break down what happened here in the legislature in this next hour, and we're going to do it with you. We'll go through all the different machinations and things that are going on. We'll start off here in a minute with that. Coming up in hour 2 of the program, starting right at the top at 7:05, we are going to be joined by State Senator Mike Shower, who is going to come in for the post-session shower hour of power. And I fully expect this to be an absolute barn burner. So you may want to buckle up, sweet lips, because I think things are about to get real in hour 2. I mean, that's my supposition. Now, whether it works out that way or not, whether he unleashes the beast totally or he's still reserved, I guess we'll still see. But I have a feeling that we will see a lot more discussion in hour 2 and a lot more naming of names and everything else than we have seen in the past. That's my theory at this point. All right. So, you want to know what happened yesterday? You want to know what it looks like? Well, I'll tell you what the final thing looked like. Yesterday, the final budget passed about 10:30 last night, and the final budget was put forward, and it included in it an amount for a dividend and an energy relief check. The dividend of $2,550 and the energy relief check of $650 for a total of $3,200 to each and every Alaskan. Now, on the table had been a discussion, an amount of $3,850, but half of that money, half of that last half of the energy relief check, instead of coming out of the general funds, was slated to instead come out of the constitutional budget reserve. Now, this again this is one of those constant ploys that we keep seeing from Bert Stedman and company in the finance committees and the conference committees, where they continue to modify the source of fundings for various things to try and create extra hurdles for things to people to have to jump over and hoops that have to be drawn and everything else. And this was another one of those. The 3/4 vote that would be required to draw that money out of the CBR passed in the Senate last night, with 5 people voting against it, 15 voting for it. But when it hit the House, it hit a roadblock. The threshold for passage in the House on a 3/4 vote is 30 votes. And instead, what we ended up was 29 yeas and 11 nays on that vote. And I'm posting up on the Facebook page right now a picture of the final vote count on that. And you can look to see exactly who was in favor of Alaskans receiving that full energy relief check. All the no's in red are the people that voted against that final energy relief check. And here's what really blows my mind. I mean, just absolutely just mind-shattering to me. Of the 11 nays, 2 of them, specifically Bryce Edgman and Tiffany Zulkowski, come from 2 of the poorest districts, the most economically challenged districts in the state, with people who are living out in the. I mean, there's an article in the ADN today. Fuel in the Alaska village of Noatak is $16 a gallon. Now, I don't think Noatak is in either one of those districts, but the point is that the rural communities are getting eaten alive. $9, $10, $11 a gallon for fuel. Talking about heating or eating in many of these places, trying to decide how to prioritize. And yet Edgman and Zulkowski couldn't increase that energy relief payment by $650 because. So Matt Clayman, Harriet Drummond, Bryce Edgman, Grier Hopkins, Andy Josephson, Jonathan Christ Tompkins, Daniel Ortiz, Calvin Treggy, Andy Story, Adam Wool, and Tiffany Zulkowski were all the ones, the 11 representatives in the House who voted against the second half of the energy relief payment. I mean, the Stutes, the Thompsons, the Rasmussens, and the Schneiders, and the Kelly Merricks of the world. The Hannon, Sarah Hannon, of all people. I mean, everybody else voted for it, but nope, couldn't do it. And in fact, Grier Hopkins was the final deciding vote. It was 29-10 until he dropped his final vote in the hopper, killing it for all of Alaskans. And it is just an amazing thing. Where is the? I was looking to see, because there was a quote from Grier Hopkins on this, and I can't for the life of me. I even highlighted it, and I still can't find it. Okay. Anyway, when I find it here, here it is. The final vote, Grier Hopkins, a Fairbanks Democrat, was the last to cast his vote on the draw, ultimately voting against the bill in a move that cut the energy relief amount in half. But it saved the state $240 million, $420 million, rather. He said, it was a hard vote. I think the dividend amount plus the $650 will help Alaskans, and I think that's important. I don't think any elected official should make their votes based on re-election. I think they should make it based on what's right for their state and all Alaskans. I mean, not that we haven't, protected the state spend at all costs at this point, and that additional $650 million would make a difference one way or the other. Anyway, it's just, this is the, wow. Oh, man. So these are the names of the legislators that, if you're in their districts, you're probably going to want to take a look at these names and decide if these are the people that you want representing you in the House. Now, some people have decried the whole budget thing, saying, well, but it was so huge and so bloated. We did get the dividend, but the budget itself was just so huge. To which I say, you know what? We are, the citizens are owed money. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. The way, I didn't write the Constitution, but by God, I'm going to live by it if that's the way it is. I didn't write it. I didn't necessarily like the quasi-socialistic aspects of it, but by God, if that's what the law says, then that's what we should do. And the citizens of the state, after coming out of and we weren't even fully out of the recession before COVID hit, we were just starting to recover. And then we got hit with COVID, and now we've had 3 years of economic, catastrophe attached to COVID. Now is the time to throw some of that money into the private economy to get it into people's hands. But, that this is the whole deal right here. So $3,200 is going to be the final amount. There were some interesting comments made during this whole thing in the end. One of the more interesting comments, and I'm just going to throw this out. Well, no, I'm not going to throw it out there because I've just realized I'm up against the break. So I'm going to come back with one of the most interesting comments that I've heard thus far on the final hours of the session. You're going to want to hear this. So stick around. Come back and join us. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. And we will talk about some of the comments, including this one from none other than Kelly Merrick. I can't wait to hit you with it. We'll be back in a minute. It is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Mike Shower coming up in hour 2 this morning. Make sure you stay tuned for that. We will return with more in just a moment. Back with more right after these messages.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Did Kirkman and Eastman vote yes on the budget? They both voted for the vote from the CBR, but in the end, Kirka voted no on the budget, and there's a quote from Kirka on that in the. There's a quote from Kirka on that, which I will pull up here in just a hot second. Oops, there it was. Wasilla Republican Chris Kirka, says KTUU, who's also running for governor, voted no in the House, calling it a giant budget. Quote. He also opposed how negotiations led to Medicaid funding for abortions being restored unless the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. So that was his reasoning for voting against the budget overall. Laura Reinbold, also, who supported the full PFD and voted yes on everything else, ended up voting against the full budget on Wednesday after the dividend had been cut. She called the budget bloated with spending on state services. $5. Oh, yeah, $5 a gallon gasoline. Oh, yeah, no, I filled up yesterday. And since I have to put Supreme in my car, $5.69 a gallon for fuel yesterday for me. $5.69. I mean, it's a good thing I get 37 miles to the gallon is all I can say. $5.69 a gallon. Just read yesterday that one of J.P. Morgan's market consultants is saying he sees gasoline at $6 an average across the country by August. I mean, I'm not surprised. It's already $5 plus here in the state of Alaska. $6, and I'm paying $5.69. Not $6 is not that far away. Yeah, $5.69 here in the valley. Yes, Dwayne. I think that regular was $5.29, if I'm not mistaken. Regular was $5.29. The medium was $5.49, and the Supreme, the 90 octane stuff was $5.69 a gallon. $57 for my 9.6 gallons. Hopkins' wife is a state attorney and received a raise, and he's going to get beat and will not be back, so he had nothing to lose. We need to get a refinery going. Trump wasn't wrong about energy independence. We should take that to heart. We had 2 refineries here in the state, but the maintenance costs and everything else, it was pain. And the problem is, of course, is that they run the refineries. It doesn't really give us much of a break because all they do is sell everything for 1 cent less than it would cost to ship it up from Cherry Creek, Washington. That's all they ever did. It was never anything. I mean, that's capitalism right there in a nutshell. It wasn't like they were giving you the best deal that you could get. It would be a point or two below what it would cost to ship it in. After the conference committee, the operating budget went up 1% compared to the Senate version. The capital budget went up 0.5%, and the supplemental went up 0.1%. The dividend was the only cut out of the conference committee. That's all they did was cut the dividend. Everything else, blah, the same. In fact, it actually went up. At this point, they have surpassed my language level. All the dirty words I know can't be going low enough to describe these folks. They have spent like teenagers trying to impress their crush. They are insane. You know who got their diving boards? Senator Svedman sent out a survey with one question to 80% of Alaskans. Was it good for you too? Yes or no? Grier Hopkins has a challenger. Yeah, he does. I heard that. How do special interests have such a hold on them that they'll vote no for relief when we people not only deserve but desperately need? I mean, a $5 a gallon is hard enough, but freaking 16, and you still vote no? Yeah. There was all kinds of at eases and everything else. That was another thing Michael Chambers just mentioned. There's a whole bunch of backroom deals. We're going to talk about that, too, because apparently and that was in full force yesterday. And we'll talk about that as well. All right, we're coming into it here. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow. Hit the subscribe button. Let's go. All right. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. So I'm just throwing. I was just throwing the vote board up there one more time for people in the chat room to see all the people that voted no against you having a full energy relief check. I mean, good news is we're going to be able to put away, $1 billion in savings into not the constitutional budget reserve, which, by the way, is still owed a bunch of money, but to the SBR, because, that one doesn't require a 3/4 vote threshold to take money out of it. I mean, isn't it interesting to you that the whole argument here was that we were going to have to, that, we were spending too much, we weren't going to be able to put enough into savings? Senator Rob Myers posts in the chat room, says, after the conference committee was done, the operating budget went up 1% compared to the Senate version that they were trying to concur with. The capital budget went up 0.5%, and the supplemental budget went up 0.1%. So everything went up. The dividend was the only cut out of the conference committee. The good news is, well, we're going to be able to put away if the oil prices hold, we're going to be able to put away $800 million into the SBR, the statutory budget reserve. No, wait a second. We're mandated by the Constitution to put money back into the CBR. We owe that one like $8 billion. But instead, you're directing it into the SBR. Why? Well, because to draw money back out of the CBR, you got to have a 3/4 vote, and that's too hard. So we'll make sure that we put it in the. So we'll make sure that we put it in into the SBR, even though we by Constitution owe money to the CBR. And any excesses should go in. No, we're going to. But there were some comments that, dude. I mean, I just was reading some of these comments. And this is the first one here in the Anchorage Daily News. There's some great comments in here. But the one here from Kelly Merrick is the one that I was teasing right before we went to break. And I've got to, first of all, just the tone deafness of everything here. I mean, at some point, you just got to look at somebody and go, really? I mean, you said that? You just said that? So Kelly Merrick, it says, let's see, all this stuff, the rejection of the Senate's plan led to the formation of a conference committee made up of Senate and House members tasked with finding a middle ground. Okay, so finding a middle ground, that is an interesting commentary based on what I just told you from Rob Myers. That they couldn't agree on what was going on, so they created the conference committee to find the middle ground. Well, apparently the middle ground is adding more money to the government spend and cutting nothing but the permanent fund dividend for the people. Good to know. Good to know. Anyway, here is the comment. We were tasked with completing 2 weeks' worth of work and negotiations in 3 days. But when you put a woman in charge, it gets done, said Rep. Kelly Merrick, the Eagle River Republican who helped lead the conference committee negotiations. First and foremost, how absolutely patronizing, condescending, and sexist. Could you imagine if Mike Shower had come out with a comment on a committee that he was doing, then they said, hey, we completed 2 weeks worth of work in 3 days, but when you put a man in charge, it gets done. You imagine the blowback on something like that? If you put a man in charge, it gets done. Or just, again, play the substitution game with anything you want in there. When you put a person of color in there, it gets done. When you put a white person in there, it gets done. When you put a man or you put an old person in there, it gets. When you put the most condescending, patronizing thing. Well, you put a woman in there, it gets done. What? I mean, did you just really say that? I mean, did you just really just say that? But I mean, hey, she's in charge, so I guess that's what it takes to get it done. And if by get it done you mean increasing the government spend and decreasing the amount of money that the people are owed via the law, and then yes, you got it done. You got it done. I don't know if all women should be ashamed of you that you got it done or what. Anyway, that was the so when it was all said, when everything was all finished, instead of the current plan, or instead of what they had talked about with the Senate had planned, which would have taken most of the forward funding out and everything else, the current plan leaves around $700 million in forward funding for K-12 education next year, because we couldn't possibly fight it out next year about this stuff. And it puts that $800 million in the statutory budget reserve account at the end of the next fiscal year if oil prices remain, near the $100 per barrel mark. So, oh my God. Senator Reinbold opposed the plan overall. Her quote was, "The biggest threat to the permanent fund dividend has always been and will always be big, bloated government." She's a staunch supporter of the full statutory dividend. She said she'd hoped to see less spending on state services and capital projects, but that obviously didn't happen. Mike Schauer, who's going to be joining us in the next hour, said, "I can't say no at this point. Standing on my principles for what? This is life-saving for some people, this amount of money." We already covered the Grier-Hopkins comment. Among the 5 opponents of the draw in the Senate, there was 5 people who voted against the draw for the from the CBR. Was Lyman Hoffman, a Bethel Democrat. He said he wants smaller energy relief checks this year to ensure that the dividend amount next year would not drop significantly, which I thought was an interesting argument. I mean, I don't agree with it, but it was a thought-provoking argument to say the least. He said, "I wanted to save that money for next year so we can start to level out and try and make it possible to spend a dividend on a 50-50 basis next year." First of all, spend a dividend, that the language on that is just weird. He said it's either feast or famine and we need to stabilize the dividend. So he wanted a smaller energy relief check this year when gas prices are already in the $10, $12, up to $16 ranges in the villages. But that way we could save it for next year. You realize that the fund refills every year, right? That the earnings keep going. I mean, I'm asking for a friend. Some of the language in the article also makes me scratch my head. It's talking about Bert Stedman. He said giving out a high payment without a permanent solution would make it difficult to resolve the conflict in the coming year. An effort by the Senate to change the statute this year failed amid high earnings that translated to a proposed dividend 3 times higher than the one paid out last year. I love how they use those, 3 times higher than, oh, you mean the one that follows the statute? What you should have said is that proposed a statutory dividend, which had been cut by 2/3 last year. Stedman went on to talk about how, well, if it wasn't an election year, you wouldn't see a no, I'm sorry, let me do this right. The walrus. If it wasn't an election year, you wouldn't see the dividend size that it is. There's a lot of folks in the building who feel their chances of re-election are a lot higher if the Treasury is a lot lower and the dividend higher. Says the man who never has to worry, apparently, about re-election because he's always going to get re-elected because he gets his people exactly what they want. If it wasn't an election year. Anyway, there was some words of some arm twisting going on. Members of the House Majority Caucus said on Wednesday that Louise Stutz told them that Dunleavy had threatened to veto capital projects in the districts of House members who voted against the draw. Well, good. It's good for the goose. It's good for the gander, right? I mean, Bert Stedman did the same thing. You don't vote for the thing, we'll cut the KGB, the Knik Goose Bay Road funding. I mean, the most dangerous road in Alaska. Project's been underway for 15 years trying to widen this road. Monies and everything else were in place, but if you didn't do things his way, he was going to defund it. Well, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Suck it up, Buttercup. Here it comes. All right. I'm going to go over to the phones. I'm going to open up the phone lines and take your calls on your thoughts on this as well. There was some other arm twisting going on. Natasha was out there doing her thing in force. We could talk about that. But let's go to the phones first and see what you guys have to say. 433-3150. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
From Homer.
Hey, Jeff. What's up?
This whole PFD thing is just amazing, as you said. But, it's almost time to start a referendum on them. Just make them do it, and if they don't do it, they go to jail or something. I don't know. That's the only way you're ever going to get them fixed. Because if it's totally legal or illegal to do this, then how do they get away with it? What is the ramifications of that? What can we do to them? Can we recall them, get them out of office for it? What's the deal? What? There's no sense of it being illegal if there's nothing we can do to them, because that's where we stand, So I'd like to have people call up and say, what can we do to them? What can we do to them?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest obvious thing is right now, Jeff, you could vote them out of office. Now, people like Louise Stutz and Gary Stevens and Bert Stedman, they seem to have a baked-in constituency who are just happy and peachy and fine with what their people are doing. So they may go back again and again, which means that you've got to continue to change out the rest of the legislature around them so that they cannot be voted into positions of power. That's the next solution.
Well, that's obvious, but I mean, every time this comes up, it's talked about that it's illegal to do. They're supposed to do this. It's mandated that they have to do this. Then what is the ramifications of that? Why don't they lose their committee powers or all of that stuff? If they don't vote for this, all the stuff that's supposed to be voted on, to put it into play so that the PFD is paid, then lose all of their committee powers, all of them, anybody. Yeah. That would be one that I would start with. And then they can't go back and threaten anybody because that's a mob mentality. That needs to stop. That binding caucus is nothing but a mob mentality, and they need to stop them one way or another. And I say we run a referendum that if they don't vote for the constitutional things, they lose all committee powers, period. Make them take that rule and swallow it, see what they like.
Yeah.
Because it's time to get rough with them because they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and the needs of the many, doesn't go with the needs of the few. And this Bert Stedman and those guys, as far as I'm concerned, they're nothing but terrorists. Terrorists at the helm. We need to do something to them to make them accountable.
Well, here's the thing: if we do open up the Constitution with a con, there will be possibilities to put some teeth into the Constitution to force legislators to follow the law, whether it's statutory or constitutional. And if they don't want to follow the statutory law, then they must change it. Either they change it or they follow it, one of the two. They have the ability to do one or the other, but they need to do it. And there should be teeth in that, and we'll have the opportunity when the Constitutional Convention happens to hold legislators accountable for their actions. And if they are breaking the law, if they're not following the Constitution, if they're not following statute, then there should be some kind of punitive measures in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I would be good with it. If they don't follow the law, they lose all of their committee status. Nobody gets to vote. They're out of the committees. They have no committee. All they have is the vote.
Well, that's a
vote for things, and that's it.
That'll be a little harder because that's a change to the uniform rules, which, of course, the whole legislature has to vote on. And since they hold all the power there, that'd be like the lunatics, voting themselves into the asylum. I don't think it'll happen. But it is an idea. I think between the two of them, we could make those changes. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff.
I do too.
Thank you for calling in today. I appreciate it.
All right.
We got to go. We're up against the break. We got one final segment here, and I'm going to leave the phone lines wide open for the next segment. You call up and give me your thoughts on this. I mean, here's the thing. I'm relieved. I'm not happy that we didn't get the full energy relief check. But I'm happy that we got at least the 50-50 PFD and some energy relief. I think it sets a good precedent for starting next year again. And I'm happy that we can now focus on the solution down the road here. That's what I'm excited about. And I'm hoping that we can now laser focus in on what needs to change. So we'll continue that. You tell me your thoughts on this at 433-3150. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Some people said I would call in, but I can't not swear. It is. Let's not swear. Let's not do that. I understand the frustration, but also I'm happy to see that my eyes are open at this point. All right. We're going to move forward here in just a moment, and we'll take more of your calls. Back with more of the Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. I think you're probably the only Alaskan excited here. Just saying. I'm not excited. I knew we were going to get screwed, right? This was a foregone conclusion. With the leadership, with the things that have happened over the last 4 months and watching it all, I knew we were going to get screwed. I'm just happy that we got less screwed than I anticipated. But now we can also, it's almost like okay, that part's over. Now we can face the next part. That's what it comes down to. That's where I'm at. I'm not excited. I'm not happy. I am. It's almost like a relief. I knew we were going to get bend over. Here it comes. I knew we were going to get that, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I expected to be. And so now I feel like, okay, now we can focus on the important part on the other side. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at this is a link that Brian just sent me. Okay. Thank you, Brian. I'll watch that. Is this the new? This is the new Spike Cohen thing. Okay, I'll watch that. I'll watch that later today. Okay, let me scroll backwards here. Yeah, get out of my store. Sorry, not fixing your heater, lawn, etc. Tuckerman has posted his stuff. He's doing his part to help with the changes. You found a few words. I can't put ones together to express. We're all on the same page here. That helps for sure. That is 100% right. And you could see that. Some of these people are not expecting to go back. Von Imhoff definitely not expected to go back. She's running around all day yesterday trying to convince people that she's gonna they need to follow. They need to do what she says. Again, the greed and the entitlement. It's funny, also maddening because exactly how he thinks he doesn't care. Oh, we were talking about okay. At least she knows talking about Kelly Merrick. At least she knows what a woman is. Let's give her a break from being in the legislature forever. That's it. I don't think Kelly Merrick is going back. I'll be honest with you. Her district is, I think she's done at this point. So she's just making as big a mess as she can before she leaves. We're going to come back as a full Republican majority. The money the Dems took is still there, so we'll be able to get it back into the hands of rightful owners, Alaskans, said Ron. You know what, Ron? I hope you're right. I hope the Republicans do take the majority. But I hope that they also remember this, because it was in a Republican-controlled legislature that we saw a lot of this spending explode. We saw the Burt Stedmans of the world and the Gary Stevenses of the world and the John Coghills and the Pete Kellys of the world take the reins of this thing and just open the floodgates of government spending under Republicans. So remember, it's not just the D's versus the R's. It is the pro-government spend versus the anti-government. It is the big government Republicans versus the smaller government Republicans. That's what we need to be paying attention to. Now we could focus on listening to Kathy Giessel arguing against the con and supporting former Governor Walker. Kathy Giessel and John Coghill are both anti-constitutional convention. They've both been out there already arguing for it. As I said yesterday, I heard through the grapevine in my media world, because I work in the world of media and advertising, that there's a proposal floating around out there for the anti-con group. They're looking for a $100,000 proposal to blitz the airwaves. They've already got money behind them. Why? Because the top 20%, oh, man, they definitely don't want the Constitution open. They don't want that to happen at all. Going down here through some of these things. Question, will the ranked choice system be used to vote on the con? No, the Constitutional Convention is a yes or no question. It has nothing to do with ranked choice voting or the jungle primary. Ballot questions like that do not fall under the ranked choice component. I'm still scrolling. Everyone should ask the governor and ask him to gut the budget, especially capital projects in the criminal districts. I mean, I think the governor should be taking the red pen to a lot of stuff in the budget. I mean, again, the conference committee came back and increased the capital budget and the other they increased it, and they only cut the dividend. All right, we're 30 seconds out. Let's get this caller. We got a caller up here. Get their name. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Ray, North Pole.
All right, Ray, hold the line here, my friend. You're going to be. We're going to be right back to you. Ray in North Pole is up next. The Michael Duke Show. Do me a favor. 50, 60 people in the chat room. Please share, like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things and the stuff. Like and share. Here we go. Getting back into it. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Okay, welcome back to the program. Continuing now with some phone calls. One final segment. Mike Shower is going to be joining us at the top of the hour. That should be fun and exciting. Let's go back to the phones, though, and see what you guys have to say. The phone lines are now open. You've heard what I've talked about here the last 45 minutes or so. You know that the legislature has made its decision. They've closed out. The governor's not calling a special session. He's reviewing the budget right now. The dividend and the energy relief payments now total $3,200 for every Alaskan. What are your thoughts on that? And on the budget and more? Ray is in North Pole. He's called in this morning. We'll start off with him. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
We want 70% of Alaska wants a statutory permanent fund put in the Constitution. Also, anybody that makes under $400,000 a year should get a tax-exempt card. No income tax, no sales taxes, no property taxes. Cut government. And last but not least, any oil products produced in Alaska, Alaskans should only have to pay $1 a gallon for any liquid products. And that's what I think should go in the Constitution. And hang these legislators that break the law. They ought to go into jail 20 years minimum. That's all I got. Bye.
Well, okay. Well, thanks, Ray. Let me comment on a couple other things. The in-state use of fuel oil for Alaska residents, or refined petroleum products, I'd love to see some kind of break on that. I'd love to see, because that's just a fraction of the usage for petroleum products in the state. The in-state use is fractional. I'd love to see some kind of break as owners to be able to get some kind of break. I don't think $1 a gallon would cut it, because there are fixed costs associated with that. But I would love to see some kind of break. I think that's a great idea. The idea that anybody who makes $400,000 or less should be tax exempt, I disagree with that. I mean, if we're going to have a government and it's going to be equitable, then everybody ought to have their dog in the fight. We can't just, I mean, like right now, middle and lower income Alaskans are paying most of the kick on this. The upper, 20% are getting nearly a free ride. So we shouldn't turn the boat the other direction and make just everybody who's rich pay for it. It should be equitable across the board. Now, what form that would take, whether that is a tax or something else, I don't know. But I think that there should be some equitability in it when it's all said and done. And so you can't just, now property taxes, I've got a special little burr under my saddle about property taxes. I think that I personally think that they're immoral. I just think that it is something that, when you own something, when you buy something and pay for something, you shouldn't be penalized for improving it. You shouldn't be held at hostage in perpetuity by local governments on that kind of stuff. It really irritates me. It is, the idea of property taxes, when property taxes started out, it was not, you weren't being taxed on the property nor the value of the property. You were being taxed on what the property produced in improvements. Now, whether that was in lumber or whether it was in crops or anything else, that's what you were taxed on. You weren't taxed on the actual value of the land overall. And that's been perverted over the course of years. And now it's common practice. So, I mean, I don't think we'll ever break those shackles, but it does really irritate me that those continue to go on. But it is a huge, huge impingement on liberty and freedom to have your property. I mean, you could own a property free and clear, have owned it for years. Your parents could have paid it off, and it could have been in the family for 3 generations. And you run into some kind of hardship, and the government can swoop in and take it all away from you because you didn't pay your kick to the king on something like that. And I just again, I find that immoral. That's just immoral. That's what I say overall. Anyway, but Ray, I mean, I like where your head is going. I just think some of that stuff needs to be thought of a little bit more. All right. 433-3150, 433-3150 is the phone number. I would love to hear what you guys have to say here in the last few minutes of the show as we continue to do, to go over what took place here in the last moments. Apart from the cash payment for the dividends, the budget has some other big ticket items in it. And again, Rob Myers, Senator Myers, was in the chat room earlier, and he said after he's analyzed the budgets and everything else, he took a look at what was proposed on the floor, what the House was voting to concur on, the difference between that proposal and what the conference committee came out with, and essentially said, well, the operating budget went up by 1%, the capital budget went up by 0.5%, the supplemental budget went up by 0.1%. So the only thing that got cut in the conference committee, essentially, was the PFD. So, I mean, so much for being fiscal stewards. But here are some of the other things that came up. Almost $400 million would be appropriated to help the Port of Alaska and to expand the Port of Nome. I think it's 100 and 300, 100 going to the Port of Alaska, 300 going to the Port of Nome, if I remember correctly. It includes a maximum of $349 million to pay oil and gas tax credits, so now we're forward funding that. There could be $2 billion in state savings accounts if the oil prices stay high. Hundreds of millions is set to be deposited into the constitutionally protected part of the permanent fund, the corpus. $300 million would go out to local governments to help pay for old school construction costs. This has been vetoed by multiple governors, and I hope the governor vetoes it again. $300 million. $359 million was set aside to recapitalize the state's college scholarship fund. And nearly $60 million, $57 million per student, and a one-time and $2 million into pre-kindergarten grants, so $59 million would be added to the school funding. All of these things are up for slashing by the governor's pen. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, hey, I just looked up 3 lines on hold. Let's go over here real quick and see if we can get through these phone calls. Good morning. Who's this? Where you calling from?
Good morning, Mike. This is Mark in care of the Alaska Freedom Council from the subarctic interior. How are you this morning?
Good, Mark. What's up?
Well, I've been listening to the program, and it sounds like the reptilians are going wild down in Juneau. People are not aware that the state of Alaska has initiated plans behind everybody's back, again, to impose vaccination cards for travel and for a number of other activities to constrict Alaska's liberty and Alaska's freedom. And also the state, through the Department of Health, is pushing these poisonous viper shots on Alaskans, pretending that they're okay, pretending that they're just normal vaccines.
Well, I haven't heard anything about the vaccine cards. I know they're still encouraging people to get the vaccine. I don't know anything about the vaccine cards. I'll have to look into that further, Mark. Thank you for your call. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Ken from North Pole.
Hello, Ken.
Hey, I'm just wondering why the governor has been so silent through all of this. I mean, isn't it kind of his job? Isn't he supposed to provide a little leadership?
Oh, that's $1 million question, Ken. I mean, really, I've been saying the same thing. Why aren't you out there beating the drum? Why aren't you out there rallying the base and the troops and getting people involved? Why aren't you showing your leadership on this thing? I don't know. I agree, Ken. I think it's the $1 million question.
Yeah, I mean, he brags about standing tall for Alaskans, but other than a lot of tall talk, I haven't really seen a lot out of this governor.
Yeah. No, it's been very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. I agree as well, Ken. Hey, thanks for your call. I'm sorry to cut you short, but I got one more call that I'm going to try and sneak in here. Good morning. Who's this?
Randy in Fairbanks.
Randy, quickly. I got less than 60 seconds.
Okay. I just think you were right when you pointed out that the CBR is supposed to be paid back. The way I look at it is the CBR did a noble and heroic job of bailing us out starting in 2015 when we had the billion-dollar deficits. Now it's like lying on the side of the road exhausted and depleted, and then we want to come by and instead of nursing it back to health and replenishing it, we want to kick it in the gut and suck more money out to pay more free money out to people. And it's nice to get free money, but I don't think are we supposed to pay it back or not supposed to pay it back?
Well, that's the thing. We're supposed to have $10 billion in there, and we've got $1.4 billion right now. All this money they want to put in the CBR. Anyway, we got to go. All the money they want to put into the SBR, which it doesn't even. It should go into the CBR, but they don't want to put it there because then it puts it that much further out of reach for them. It puts it that much further out of reach. I mean, Randy's right. The money should go into the CBR. Any excesses should go into the CBR because per the Constitution, that money is owed. And they're not doing it. They're talking, oh, no, we'll put it in the SBR. Oh, we'll put money into the corpus of the permanent fund. Okay, well, that's great. You still owe almost $9 billion to the CBR. I mean, that's what it comes down to. All right. Without reforms to the spending formulas, Alaska will remain the most dangerous state, the lowest performing schools, and no infrastructure for private development. You're 100% right. I mean, we've got to reform the formulas. Any kind of formula. I mean, every dollar, every department, every program in the state should fight on equal footing. No program should have some kind of automatic escalator that means they get more money every year without having to justify what they're doing, especially a program like education, where they have continually delivered an inferior product to the state of Alaska, to the citizens. And I'm talking about education, scholastic achievement, aptitudes, and things like that. That's exactly what it is. So-called Republicans who are for bigger government are not true Republicans, says Michael. I mean, you and I can agree on that, Michael. The problem is that the Republican Party has still allowed them to run under that banner. Again, I will lay a lot of the problems over the last 15 to 20 years directly at the feet of the statewide Republican Party. They have allowed people to run under the banner of republicanism who are not small government, fiscal conservatives, keep government out of our lives kind of people, which is traditionally what you think of when you think of Republicans. They are the the Bert Stedmans and the Natasha von Imhoffs and the John Coghills of the world who want to take those money and spend them on government services and believe that they somehow know better than you how to spend your money. That's what it's about. Ranked choice voting has been analyzed to create candidates who take the milquetoast line so they can pick up the second choice. Dunleavy is playing this card exactly. This is why he is moderate on everything. Well, I mean, he best step up to the plate. That's all I can say. If he expects to get reelected, something better. And you know what? He's supposed to announce his running mate this week, right? The end of this week. And he's the only one that hadn't announced his running mate with a deadline coming up. And I think that's because his running mate is a member of the legislature and they couldn't campaign until after the session was over. Because by law, if you're in session, a legislator can't campaign for a statewide office. So who is not running for re-election right now? Well, Natasha's not running. And I haven't seen if Bachicki is filed yet or not. Some of the couple of the Democrats aren't running again, but the bottom line is that the governor is about to pick somebody out of the legislature to be their running mate. There's been rumors that it may have been Mia Costello, but then I heard that she denied that. I don't know. I mean, who would the governor pick out of the legislature as a running mate that would appease the base who's so disenfranchised and so frustrated with his lack of action, his inaction? Who would it be? I have no idea. No idea at this point. No one wants to run with him. Watch him pick Stutes. Well, I mean, sure, I guess if you want to lose. Would it be Shelley Hughes? They're both from the Valley. I don't think it would be a Valley legislator. It would have to be a legislator from probably the interior or maybe down on the peninsula. I just don't know at this point. I don't know. I mean, if I was a legislator, I don't know if I'd want to hitch my wagon to that star right now. If I was a legislator, I'm not sure. Because I think that he has enough self-inflicted wounds from this last term that I don't think that would happen. I would be very reticent to want to hitch my wagon to that train. That's what I'm saying. How about Dina Bishop? I just don't think so. First of all, I mean, I don't know. No, I don't see that. But maybe. I mean, he's made some foolish moves before. Making Ben Stevens as chief of staff was one of the largest problems that I ever saw. Firing Donna Ardwin was one of the other ones. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to get Mike Shower on board here. He's going to be joining us here in a hot second. Michael Dukes. Jesus. Seriously, really? No, thank you. I ate a bar of soap earlier. I'm full. All right. Let's that's two of his biggest mistakes. Ann Zink. Yeah. Oh God, Ann Zink. Yeah, but again, why would he wait until after? Why would specifically? They've announced that he's going to make the announcement. It in my mind, it has to be a legislator. It has to be a legislator. I mean, the timing is just too specific. You know, who else? But again, what legislator in their right mind right now, especially a conservative, smaller government one, would want to hook their wagon to that star? But we'll see. We'll see what the governor, again, should be later this week. We're supposed to hear what's going on. All right, we're up against it. We got to go. Mike Shower's on the line. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Let's do this thing. Get ready. Buckle up, sweetheart. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Mr. President, what does a fistful of cash get you if you are sitting on the tundra wishing someone would come pick you up?
Hi, good morning. Welcome to it, hour 2 of the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the world at michaeldukeshow.com and on the interwebs, and of course also across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator. Hi, how are you? We are into hour 2 of the big radio program, and that means for today we're bringing on our guest, the one, the only State Senator Mike Shower, who is going to, I guess, let his hair down a little bit now that the session's over. We get a chance to maybe some hard truths. I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful, but we'll see what happens. State Senator Mike Shower joins us right now. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I am tired.
I'm sorry. Say that again. I had you muted for me. What did you say?
I said I am tired.
You're tired. You is tired. You is tirad. Okay, I got that. And we appreciate your efforts on all this stuff. So, Mike, here we are. What good is a fistful of cash going to do you out there in the world? I guess we'll just start it. What do you think from yesterday? What was your take of everything that's going on?
I will tell you. Remember, I predicted that the way the budget was set up from the conference committee, that what was going to happen was they were going to find a way, anything, to bring the dividend down from statutory. Now, remember the 5,500 amount, which like I said before, I was kind of shocked and happily shocked.
Right.
That it ended up there, because I thought, well, I'm the one that kind of maneuvered, had the amendment for the full statutory PFD. And when Wilson put in the one for the energy relief, I was like, that passed first. I'm like, yeah, whatever, it won't last somehow. And so I put the other one, they both passed. I'm like, well, that's because, one person was missing that day. If that person had been there, it would have been a 10-10, and that wouldn't have happened either.
Right.
But they passed. And so then, of course, House doesn't concur on Saturday,
right?
Which we knew, we've talked about that already. And that was just you just got to shake your head. You're like, how did you not concur with that? We gave you everything. I know the budget was big. Everybody knows that. And we're talking the three combined, because that's one of those old tactics, right? You want to make it hard on legislators to vote harder, right? You put all the budgets together, because then it's a supplemental and operating in a capital. And so, maybe I like capital because it was really big this year, but we're a decade behind, because for the first time in a while, we had enough money that we could put some significant funding towards, roads, bridges, ports, airports, et cetera, and we need to do that, right?
Right.
And so the cuts from years ago were mostly to the capital budget, and of course that's if you're really going to cut government, you cut the operating, right? People and programs. You don't cut one-time expense each year of capital, because those things are important, for what you have. So put them all together. What does that do? That means that, you got to up or down everything, right? You get one chance, one vote. You don't get to argue each one separate. The supplemental was huge as well. I think
the supplemental is what, $1.4 billion or something by the time it was all said and done?
I don't remember the exact amount. I thought he said 775 or something like that, but it's still not small. Most of them I've seen, have been somewhere around like 160 or, maybe 300 million or something. But this was really big, and it's got all kinds of stuff. It had stuff for almost every agency in it. It wasn't like, you had a bunch of forest fires, so we had to spend an extra 100 million on, firefighting stuff or something, or a flood or whatever. It wasn't that. It was stuff. And, so supplemental was big, which we had never even really hardly talked about. Capital is big, but we know why. And I do believe that one was something we should have done while we have money. You spend money when, because this is we're spending all this money. I'm like, it's just because we have it. I'm like, no, wrong. I said, if you have money and you need to spend it on things like this, then you spend it. If you have money and don't need to spend it, or you're building bridges to nowhere, then no, you don't spend it. You save it. But we have money and we have a need for things right now, so I don't see a problem with using that money while you have it, right? It's like if you get that fistful of cash and you need something, it's okay to spend it. If you don't need it, perhaps you should put some aside for later, right? And that's okay. But there are things we need. Now, the operating budget, again, was growing too large. We know that, about the same size as the 2016 budget, but I think it was brief, like I said, like 8.5% growth on it, something like that, depending on the agency. So that was too big, but I have to rely on the governor to trim some of that, because there's no way.
Well, and it's not like you guys didn't attempt to make those cuts in the Senate. I mean, you guys had a bunch of attempts to cut huge chunks out of the budget.
Mike, I had over 1.3 billion. If you want to get right down to it,
right.
I had about 140 million of just straight cuts, and 1.2 billion for the forward funding education.
Right.
Every single one of them voted down.
Exactly. And so it's not like you guys didn't fight your fight to get that money out. But if the money was going to be spent anyway, you could at least spend it to benefit the private economy. That was the whole argument here, and to follow the law, be able to follow the law.
Yep. So we had that amendment passed, and we had 5,500 in there. And I did not hang my hat on the fact that 5,500 would survive. I figured some portion of that would come down. I even said it on the floor, and I had one Democrat that's been fighting for this for a long time say, well, you set the bar so high that, we kind of, otherwise we'd be talking about a $2,000 or a $2,400 PFD, because when you set it at 5,500, and then the people got pretty fired up about it. He's like, there really isn't no choice. Now we're discussing, like a $4,000 PFD or something, ballpark this, right?
Right.
So, and that's kind of what happened, right? So the negotiations through last week. So to me, here's the thing, bottom line of the budget. Operating too big, hope the governor's going to do some cuts, which I think he would have, do whatever. Capital needed, bigger, right? Big PFD, supplemental, got it. There's a lot of your growth, right? And I think you said it was 17.4 billion, totally talked about last night, but here's some of the things that set it off, right? Like $4.5 billion of federal stuff coming in, right? Billions and billions, and there's probably really more than that because of COVID-19 and all that. It was it was down because, of course, they trimmed the budget, by taking out at this point, better part of $2 billion away, right, from people. Again, thank you, certain people that voted against it, plus the, House last night and the Democrats. And so you add that to the capital. The capital was about 3.2 or 3.5, plus what was going to be about 3.5 on the dividend, plus the federal money. So right there is almost $10 billion, right?
Right.
Actually, it's more than $10 billion. So those numbers seem big when you combine it together, and it is a big number, right? But when you add those other things that happen, a lot of this is one time. It's not normal with the federal money plus the capital. So that was part of, I got lambasted again, made to look like an idiot by the ADN standard, can't put their cocktail glasses down long enough to tell the truth. I actually I roasted them on a special order a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. All the lies.
I love it when their pinkies up and they're going, "Oh, Michael Shower, who's supposed to be a fiscal conservative, is now calling for larger government spend. Oh, I can't believe it." And you just...
right. Yeah, how dare me want to spend money on the people? How dare me?
Well, and how? Look at the thing. Look at this. How closely you called it. You called it back when your full dividend thing passed in the Senate. You were like, "Look, I'm looking for the highest negotiating position I can start with because, the best we're probably going to get out of this is a 50-50 PFD and maybe the energy relief payment." And that's exactly what we got. We got the 50-50 and half of the energy relief. So you called it right out of the beginning. The most interesting thing about this whole thing is that when it was all said and done, you had the Senate budget, which was, declined by the House. No, we can't vote to concur on that because we're concerned about larger budgets. And then when it's all said and done, what happens? Operating goes up by 1%. Capital goes up by 0.5%. The supplemental budget goes up by 0.1%. So all those budgets increase. The only cut was to the PFD.
The PFD. There you go. The people.
Oh, you poor peasants. We couldn't possibly give you. No, we'll increase over here. But now we can vote for it because we didn't give the peasants any money.
That's the point, isn't it, Mike? So instead, and this is one of the more frustrating things out of many frustrating things. Another poison pill, always got to be a poison pill, right? Whether you put all the budgets together instead of leaving them separate so you can have good separate fights on each one and have up or down votes, and you don't Shanghai legislators into having to vote for the whole thing when they would have probably preferred to not vote for something, right? And fight that out separately. And it might have been a very different vote had that been the case, but they know that. They put pressure on, just like waiting till the last day, right? Always got to have tons of pressure. Makes it so hard to do this. Imagine if there was no pressure because we finished a month ago on the budget. We'd have had days to go back and forth on this, right? But no, we don't do that.
Don't worry, Mike. They had a woman in charge. They got 2 weeks worth of work done in 3 days because they had woman in charge. That's her words, not mine. Her words. I mean,
So you got to have that poison pill of that. Now you got the other poison pill, and I predicted this, and I talked to the Senate president, and we asked not to have the same people put on the conference committee like we're going to go and have this, and I talked about that. Said you're going to have the same people on it, same problems, predicted it, asked them not to do it, happened anyways. Don't worry, we're going to get a full PFD. You're going to hold the line, right? And then, of course, can't have the full PFD as the starting point, right? Even when the Senate comes out of the conference committee, it's got to be $38.50, right? It's like, oh, we can't do that extra $300 because that's no. What that is, that's a complete and utter poke at the governor. That's a complete and utter poke at the legislators that have supported the full PFD. A complete and utter poke at the people themselves, because we're not going to give you a full PFD, Mike. We're going to give you a $3,900 PFD, $300 short. Really? Don't tell me that matters. That's the whole thing. Was just we're going to poke. Can't give governor a win, right? Can't give. No, we're not going to do that. And then I looked at it, and this is the kicker. When that happened, then okay, well, $3,900. I go, I don't like it. We should be doing statutory. It's making a point, and we certainly have money for an extra couple $100 million at best, or $150 million or whatever. An extra $300 would have been peanuts in the course of this, right? No. Not only does it have to be like $3,900 instead of $4,200 to make it statutory and be able to say we finally did it for once, but it has to have the poison pill that it is not coming out of the ERA, right? It's not all funded the way it was. It's got to be a $2,500 50-50 PFD. So somebody could say, well, we only gave a 50-50 PFD, and we gave a $1,300 energy check. But here's a little kicker for you. We're going to make it so that only half of that $1,300 energy payment comes from the ERA. The other half's got to come from the CBR. And do you know why? Because that requires a 3/4 vote.
Right.
And what happened last night that I complained about over the weekend and told the Senate president and anybody that would listen, we're going to get hosed again because that is a poison pill. It was well known through the press. There were certain people walking the building since the conference committee report came out trying to get people to not give their 3/4 vote.
And now
because then at least we can chop the PFD down even farther,
right?
Down to a $3,200 instead of the $3,900. Yeah. That's exactly what happened last night.
Right.
Again.
Right. I mean, and who's walking around the building? I know Natasha von Imhoff was walking around. I know that Louise Stutz was walking around. Bryce Edgman. Who else was pushing it?
I'm sure there was probably freaking 10 people, Mike. I don't know everybody. I mean, I read the press stories too about her and them, some of the others, whatever. But it's well known. I mean, because I can't track everybody, right? But there were people just like myself. I mean, I was walking the building, talking to different members, mostly the House Minority Republicans, going, please skip your vote this time. Don't vote no like you did on some did on Saturday. And we gave you the whole package on Saturday, the whole thing. And the governor, they probably would have chopped the energy payment, but we would have been stuck. We would have had a $4,200 PFD. It'd been done.
Right.
Had they voted yes on Saturday, it would have been done, Mike. We probably would have signed-died and just left.
Right.
And it'd been over. The governor could have finished up whatever, and it was done. And, of course, the House killed that on Saturday.
Right.
And then we handed them another gift, $3,900 PFD, boys. Even the Senate handed it to them yesterday, Mike. 15-5. We needed 15 people. We got 15 people to vote for it. I was shocked again that I figured we were going to be 14-16, right? As always, one person's got to swing that vote. My God, we didn't. We ended up with a 15-5. Like, we actually did it. I can't believe we held on to the $3,900 PFD. And then it's like, okay, is the House going to do it? And nope, can't do that, Mike. Got to make. Oh yeah, we're going to pass that budget. Oh yeah, that budget. But we can't give you the 3/4 vote.
Right.
We're going to be one person shy. 29-11. One person just can't help but make sure that government is fully funded and fed, but screw the people. Go look at the board on that vote from last night and look at the red names. 11 people decided, nah, screw you, Alaska. I'm going to take another $600 out of your pocket.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's just like,
I love the argument that came out, the interesting comment, because really it's the whole point here. Although Lyman Hoffman said he wanted smaller energy relief checks to ensure the dividend amount next year would not drop significantly. But what that really means, what that's code for. He said, I wanted to save that money for next year so we could start to level. What they really wanted to do was save the money so they could spend it next year on something else.
Well, look at the forward funding, right? One of the big, fallacies of this entire forward funding, we don't forward fund, Mike. Oh, Zach Fields flat out lied on the floor watching him. This budget is going to kill education. It's taking away the funding. Could you lie any harder, Zach?
Right.
Just a little harder for me, would you? Because you're not taking away funding at all. The only way we fund, Mike, is 1 year at a time. That is our mechanism.
Right.
We don't fund a 2-year budget on anything. The forward funding, so-called, which is misnamed, is taking extra money for the next fiscal year and putting it into another account and saving it. It's not budgeted. It's just sitting there. In fact, we're probably violating the Constitution once again because we can't have a dedicated fund.
We gotta go. I'm late. We gotta go. Back with more of the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. See, you got me all Twitter-pated about that. All right, Mike Shower is our guest. We're in the break right now, getting ready to go. You're a little more sanguine than I expected you to be today. I thought you'd be out there pulling hair, ripping, and I love it. I mean, but I want to hear more. Yeah, some of the arguments on the floor, and of course, this is the same argument we saw the whole time, right? Before the concurrence vote was, oh, you're gutting education. You're taking money from all these other things. You're doing all this and doing all that. And, of course, that was a lie. All of those things were fully funded, plus the dividend.
That's right. And I'm a bit sanguine, but, Mike, like I said, I'm just tired. I've been, up for late yesterday. I was probably up for 20 hours working on this, running back and forth, trying to do this. Since last weekend. So it's been over, a week and a half of very long days and nonstop. So it's not, literally at this point, I'm kind of like, in one sense, I'm like, thank God it's over. I can breathe and sleep and recover for a little bit. So it's not that I'm not fired up or frustrated or upset. it's just that at this point you're kind of like, this was like after the big game, win or lose, whatever. You're like, oh, I got to go get a drink and lay down and get some rest. That's all it is at this point. This is just kind of fatigue setting in at this point. I've got to recover for a little bit. I'm tired, man. I'm tired. I'm tired of the battle. And tired of watching the people lose. And at some point you just go, you got to breathe and walk away and recover for a bit. And that's where I'm at right now. I said I didn't even get back to my apartment till like 1 o'clock, 12:30 last night. I don't know what it was. It was late.
Well,
I didn't even leave the building. I don't even think we didn't sign any die until after midnight. And I don't even think I left the building until almost 1 by the time I cleaned stuff up and whatever. So it's just, whatever.
Well, I appreciate you coming on this morning. I know it was hard. I actually woke up. I forgot to send you a text, and I had gone to bed early last night, and I woke up at 10:30 or whatever it was and sent you that text.
I saw that. While I was sitting on the floor, I saw it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, man. I want to – well, there's so many things that I want to talk about here, but I want to let me just give you the floor for a couple minutes here. What else would you like to talk about? Because here's what I'm going to bring up here. I want to talk about the Constitutional Convention. I'm going to talk about what does the organization look like in this coming year. I mean, your bills didn't go any – I mean, the caucus of equals apparently did not work out quite like you intended or like anybody intended. So I want to talk about those things, but what do you want to bring up here in the next 2 minutes as we get ready to as we talk to the Facebook crowd here?
Well, I think you just named some pretty important ones, Mike. Like I said, over the last couple of days, once I realized the fix was in, and when I saw them put the poison pill in of that 3/4 vote required for half of the last $1,300 of the PFD payments, whatever you want to call it, 'cause I can't even use the words PFD anymore. They got it so twisted. I'm like, I predicted. I've been telling everybody. I said it's going to go away. I told the Senate president, I said don't appoint him. He'd already did. And I said we're going to lose. No, we're going to have 3,300. I'm not blaming him directly per se, in the sense of it's just like why are we? Because they always do that, right? It's always the conference committee, appointees or the finance co-chairs, right? And actually, what was ironic is the House Speaker didn't do that. The House Speaker let one of them not be on that,
right?
And
right.
put 3 anti-PFD people on the conference committee. So when the president appointed it on the Senate side, there's 5 people. 5 of them are anti-PFD. We knew something was going to happen, Mike. If you think there was no backroom negotiations, it'd be a fool. They were. You could see smiles on people's faces when it came across last night that they voted that down. I literally watched certain people in the room, and when the word came out, they had big smiles on their faces like, yep, we got them. I'm like, all right, yeah, fix was in the whole time, whatever. So I did, Mike. I sat back and watched when it came out, and people, because we kind of stopped on the floor as the vote came up, and everybody was talking about it. I literally watched about 3 different people's faces with that little grin, that Cheshire Cat grin, going, gotcha. Like, yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, you say you don't want to blame the Senate president, but look, burn me once, shame on me, burn me twice, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, this is like burn me the 53rd time. When he said, oh, yeah, we're going to vote for the will of the how has that been working out? The Finance Committee is not exercising the will of the majority. I mean, that's insane. I mean, okay, hold on. Sorry. I didn't mean to engage you right before we return. Hold the line. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Here we go. Okay, we're back. Continuing now, State Senator Mike Shower, our guest. We were just talking during the break about the formation of the conference committee, and that Senator Shower had asked Senator Machicki, the president, not to appoint the business as usual crowd, not to appoint the 2 co-chairs, because that is tradition, but he had the opportunity not to do it. And in fact, Mike points out that that Stutes on the House side didn't appoint the traditional. She appointed 3 anti-PFD people and left Neil Foster out of the mix on that one. But you were assured by the Senate president, they're going to exercise the will of they're going to vote. And of course, it didn't. I mean, how many times do you have to get stung before you're like, maybe we shouldn't do that at all? What do you say, Mike?
So that's where I told you, Mike, said my mind when that happened, when the conference committee was appointed and those people were on it, and then no surprise, wink, wink, that the poison pill of the 3/4 vote required for the half of the $1,300 came up. I'm like, yeah, fix it then. We're done. I predicted. Matter of fact, I told Michelle right away. I said, there you go. I said, that's it. Maximum PFD, 3,200 maximum. And if the House gets pissy and screws that up, it's going to be less, because then they're going to start over and hand the whole budget back at zero to the same conference committee, the same finance people to screw it up, right? Look at the votes for that portion of it, right, Mike? And the fix for them. Look at the votes. We voted for the budget, all but one, and I even said myself, I said 2 of the 3 things I'm voting for in this budget. One of them, the people prioritized by a statutory PFD or close to it, right? I mean, what am I going to say, right? $3,900. I mean, come on, guys. I do my best, but you're not going to win with this crowd. They're never going to give you a full win. They got to chop it by a couple $100. But I said, I'm not going to not vote for something that's almost $4,000 in every Alaskan's pocket when families desperate need it. I'm just going to have to suck it up and say yes. Don't like it, but it's the best we're going to do. It only gets worse, right? So fine. And the second thing, the 2 of the 3, was that the capital budget was big and we need it. That's 2 out of 3, Mike. In this place, I'll take it, because that's a win when you look at how we have been getting hammered on this. So whatever, and that's the thing. But then, like I said, I looked at it and go, well, it's only going to get worse. Predicted it is, it did. As I said, it's not going to make it. They're going to do it. So then, when that came in, and then I saw that poison pill, I said, yeah, that's what's going to happen. Predicted it right away. Told everybody, staff, all of them. I said, that's what's going to happen. All the other senators talking to House members. I said, my mind's already left the building. I said, at that point, I wasn't even that fired up. You might notice yesterday, if you watched me from last week to yesterday on the floor, I was fairly subdued. Not like defeated, subdued. We actually got a bigger PFD than I ever thought we would, total payment, right? Because had we not had the big stuff in there, we would have been negotiating starting from like a 3,000, basically what we would have starting from, like, really? Had that amendment not passed, had Von Imhoff been there, because she would have voted against it, we would have started our negotiation from a $2,500 PFD to the House's position of a $1,200 PFD. The energy payment may have stayed, and we would have been talking about a smaller PFD. So that's what I said. You probably would end up like $2,000, and they said that's a great PFD, with that energy payment. Sure, going to help. So that's the reality of it. So it's bigger than I know many of them wanted. They're still mad about that. $3,200 still pisses a lot of them off, but whatever. So when that happened, Mike, you noticed yesterday I started talking like, well, I could get all fired up and jump up and down, but it's not going to change anything. So my brain in the last 48 hours has already transitioned out of this session because the fixes were all in, and I'm already moving on to, like you said, I'm moving on to the election cycle. I'm moving on to the Constitutional Convention. I'm moving on to organization next year, what it needs to look like. Set it in the states for all of it, because I got election integrity killed in the Senate, right? In Senate Finance, never heard it. Judicial reform killed in Senate Finance, never even heard it. At least I got the election integrity heard twice, right, but never moved. So lots of things to do. And we had a Hail Mary last night with a couple of Democrats because they really wanted campaign finance reform, right? There was one bill that was the old turducken stuffed all together, right? And that bill was House Bill 157 from Sarah Rasmussen, which actually went through my committee. I liked it because it was more stringent reporting requirements, and we passed that pretty quick, made it to finance. And then I got rolled, just like rolling the chairs, no big deal. They actually, without talking to me, without asking, they took House Bill 234 out of my committee, which was Representative Democrat. Well, he's not. Well, yeah, he's a Democrat. He's Democrat. Schrage, right? And his campaign finance bill. And we had the debate on the, in committee, out in the open, on the record. It's not a level playing field. I'm like, Calvin, you gave me a bill that's not a level playing field. This slaps limits on, which I do think we need them, but there's no limits on unions. All Democrats desperately wanted this, Mike, because they know that it hurts Republicans, because Republicans don't get the benefit of the union armies that go out with paid leave and give their people stuff and have them canvass neighborhoods and hold street signs. I know because I've been standing beside them, talking to them on street cars, like, oh, yeah, the union bust us up here for the day on paid leave so we could campaign for people. I'm like, wow, that must be nice to have for the Democrats, right, on the side. Right. Republicans don't get that. They bring all the union members in and show them, wink, wink, how to fill out ballots. It's not a fair advantage, Mike. It is what it is, but it's not fair. And so I said, if we can find a way to slap limits on that are reasonable, but also, level the playing field somewhat, I said, I'm game. I want to do that. That was the goal. they gave it to me in the end game. And then, people trying to blame me like Kathy Giesel's knows, it's terrible, I won't move that bill. No, that's not what I said, Kathy. Quit lying. I said I want to make it a level playing field. I want to take away the advantage that one group gets from like big unions and other groups that typically only help one party. That's not a level playing field. That's not fair. Why do you think the Democrats want it so bad and there aren't any Republicans pushing it? Because everybody knows what it does, Mike. It was literally Democrats filed like 6 bills within days of that court case coming out. And you're going to sit here and tell me, this is a really important. No, it's not. It's important to one party, guys. We're not stupid, right? So, but you get the press is able to come out and say stuff, and because they've got that in their pocket. So, whatever. So, there was a Hail Mary last night in the last 48 hours where I was actually working with a couple of Democrats after I got undercut, and they basically pulled the bill out of my committee. Sarah Rasmussen was angry because they stuffed 234 without talking to her. Not even giving her the courtesy of telling her. They shoved all of those things from House Bill 234 from Schraggy's bill into Rasmussen's 157 in Senate Finance. Now, normally, if you're really being good about it, you tell the sponsor, hey, we're going to do this. She had no idea. Boy, she was angry. It was fascinating to watch. So they shoved everything in her bill. They took it out of my committee without talking to me. Standard stuff in the end game, right? Because remember that caucus of equals.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I was livid with that whole process, right? Because they took it away and I had it on the schedule waiting to find out, what was going to happen so we could have that last hearing. I had 5 amendments, tried to make it, ready to go, waiting on my committee. And then about 4 or 5 o'clock, I found out they did that. I'm like, to hell with it. And never even had a chance to finish on the committee. And then they were, he wouldn't hear the bill. Lies again. Like lies run through this place like water. I mean, just flow so smoothly off the tongues of some people. And and I actually got comments from a Democrat and a reporter when I kind of roasted the ADN editorial board about their lies, saying how, drunken sailors,
right.
Even drunken sailors know better. So, well, first of all, you can't get the title right. It's a drunken fighter pilot, not a sailor. Don't insult sailors, but whatever. And so that bill had all that garbage. I mean, it was the APOC stuff. It had the campaign finance stuff. And then we're like, well, there's no way. I'm talking to the governor. He's going to veto that. Because there wasn't a chance to vet it. It's a one-sided thing. And we'll help you get some of your election integrity. So about 11 o'clock last night, Chris Tuck and I, not last night, the night before, Chris Tuck and I sit in my office and have our conference committee. For lack of a better term, trying to go, what can we do? We got minutes. I was given 30 minutes, Mike, basically, to try to get something turned in to go, just pick some stuff out of your election bill. A 30-page bill, 64 sections, with my staff on the line. One of them is back home, because you don't usually keep all your staff to all 4 months. It's usually at 90. You kind of start pushing some away. Him, some of his staff, another Democrat staff, and I'm trying to pick out, well, this section, well, that one, we'll take that one, and this one, and I think we pulled out about 10 sections, and just fire it off, because we're not going to get the whole thing, and to make it an amendment also into House Bill 157. Because without something else, we're not going to get I'm not going to ask everybody to vote for this. We're going to kill that thing too, right? And no, we'll help you get that. And it was a Hail Mary, and it was a legitimate. I appreciate it. I truly do. Effort to try to do something. But then as the day wore on, the amendment didn't come back. It's going to be a big, thick amendment. I need to see the amendment because I got to analyze what actually came out because I don't always, legally you don't always get back what you send over, right? And it may have unintended consequences. And then over the floor debate last night, through hours, they added in something from another bill. Something was added in from another bill. There was more. I mean, it was like 5 different bills in that last little bit they're being shoved in. There's longtime staffers through that building, which I got to say, by the way, I do appreciate the work they do. I don't want to forget that. Those people get forgotten about all the time. They put up with all this crap. I mean, all the staff, the recorders and the pages. I mean, they sit there and put up with this garbage, and I'm thankful that they're there because that place would cease to function without them being there. But they were making comments to us and to my staff. They have never seen it like this, Mike. They were rolling committee chairs, pulling bills out left and right, stuffing them into other bills last minute, whole bills being stuffed into other bills as an amendment on the floor, on the fly. It was insanity. And they're like, we've never seen this before. It was like this free-for-all. And there was like 5 bills that were getting shoved into that Sarah's little 157, an original, very clean bill. And by the end of the night, I think at about 11:30 last night, because we got to finish at midnight,
right?
The amendment came out. And I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I've had it. I'm like, this is getting ridiculous. This bill is getting large. It's got all kinds of impacts that we haven't had a chance to study. I haven't even looked at the amendment when we had like 20 minutes left or whatever it was to sine die. My staff hasn't even seen the amendment to analyze it. Did we get what we needed? What are the impacts? I mean, normally you'd look at this for a while, right? No time. I'm just supposed to vote on it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I just kill it. Kill the whole freaking thing. And, oh, by the way, also waiting to see what the House did because some of those Democrats really, really, really wanted that stuff, right?
Right.
So you're sitting there going, so you want me to give you something else, Calvin Strage and the rest of you, your little campaign finance reform and all that, while you just screwed the people again with your votes, and you think I'm going to give you this too? And quite frankly, at the end of the night, Mike, I was so pissed off. I'm like, I'm done. I've been rolled multiple times. Bills pulled out of my committee without talking to me. You know, my people are getting screwed again because of the dividend, all this stuff. I'm like, to hell with it. I would have loved to have had a few of those election things through there, Mike, with all the work that was done. But at the end of the night, when it all kind of came together, I didn't have the time to even analyze what we were able to pick. And did they work? And were there unintended consequences? The vote by the House Democrats, you know, to do this at the last minute and kind of basically stab you in the back with that. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
No.
And it was too much, too fast at the very end of it. You make bad decisions, unintended consequences. And that's their fault, Mike.
Yeah, no,
that's their fault.
Well, it's their strategy. It's not their fault. It's their strategy. That's what they want to do. They wanted to get all this in there and then go and just hog wild crazy with things that people have never seen before. Tactics and tricks that they're using right now. It is absolutely insane. All right, hold the line. Mike Shower's our guest. We got one final segment. When we come back, we're going to talk to him about what comes next session, the organization. Of course, we got an election and everything, but what does it look like? We're going to see what happens here. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
So, Mike, I mean, who, you know, these staffers coming to you and going, my God, we've never seen it like this. I mean, who's pulling these strings? I mean, is it Edgman? Is it Stutz? Is it Machicki? Is it Stedman?
Some or all the above, Mike. I don't know. I mean, I honestly, there's no way to know. There was too much happening in the last 48 hours there to even keep track of it. And I don't even think anybody that was pulling strings knew everything that was going on. I think they're pulling strings on their particular thing or things that they wanted, and there's about a dozen other things happening at the same time. And it was like that. I mean, literally, you could tell it was the last day was just utter chaos. Nobody knew. Mistakes were being made. You know, our rules chair sent over a whole bunch of bills to the House, and in my opinion, should have held them until we saw the House starting to pass some of our stuff. And then we sent like a dozen bills, and they voted down 5. Like, you don't do that to the other body when you're sending that. You know, we passed almost all of theirs. I think we may have passed them all. It was ridiculous.
Right.
Like, that's not the way it works. So, you know, it's just like the whole thing was just a freaking
poo parade.
Yes.
A poo
I
parade.
can't think of a way to say it without cussing on the radio. But it was just a total mess and chaos. And so I don't think anybody was, I mean, honestly, they might have been in control of their slice of the whatever, but there was nobody in control of it yesterday.
Well,
I mean, it was freaking chaos and ridiculous chaos.
Might I go back many, many years in the past in the Wayback Machine and rewind about 18 or 20 months when they were shocked, I tell you, that somebody dared to use Rule 48 to pull SB 91 out of committee? How this rule is never, it's hard. I mean, this is it's a momentous occasion. And then you come back to this year and my God, what is it? Just 5, 6, 7 times it was used this year to pull things out of committee?
Oh, just rolled chairs left and right, Mike. Rolled them left and right. And some of them officially, right? I mean, you could start with saying roll the chair by Lord Reinbold getting kicked out of her, chairmanship. You could start with what happened weeks ago when Mia Costello got rolled. And one of the people that signed the letter to roll her was the rules chair, who, was adamant we don't do that and hates that, but did it, right? And then, we in the same week we rolled Roger Holland because he didn't want to hear he wanted to waive 140, the level playing field act, so that biological males can't, play in women's sports and dominate them. And they rolled him, right, because they wanted to keep, and I know exactly what that was about. That was about keeping
Democrats
some of the
happy in the
Democrats
House,
happy,
yeah.
right? Because they knew they would need their votes later for the budget, and then we rolled about freaking 1,000 chairs about 100 times in the last 48 hours, and pulling bills left and right, not even talking to the chairs, just doing it. It was freaking ridiculous, Mike. I mean, and that was not those of us that were the conservatives causing the problems. We weren't the one doing it. It was all the ones that said we shouldn't do it. It was all the old guard. It was all the Democrats. It was
right.
Anybody but the crazy Valley legislators. Anybody but the conservatives. We weren't the ones doing it. It was because they were trying to get what they wanted. It was nutty.
Hey, I didn't get a chance to talk to because I asked Rob Myers this yesterday. He said he was going to look into it, and I don't know if he did, and I didn't talk to him about it this morning. But one of the rumors I heard was that even though the budget went up in conference, I mean, 1.1%, 0.5%, 0.1%, and then the dividend got cut. I also heard that one of the punitive measures that was done was that they cut the funding for troopers in the Valley. I heard they cut like six or seven trooper positions. Was that true?
They did. Yeah. They can't help themselves, Mike. They got to hit back. All I can tell you, and we'll talk about it on the open radio too, is, I've got a memory, and next year things will change, and the organization is going to look different. And some of those Democrats and other people that screwed us over might find themselves in a different place the next 2 years. Be careful what you do.
So they penalize the Valley for not towing their line. That's interesting.
They're not towing the line for too big of a dividend that pissed them off, whatever it is, Mike. And it wasn't just the Valley, right? I mean, you have Kenai legislators, you have Fairbanks legislators, you got Anchorage legislators. I don't know why they pick on the Valley, just because we're overly conservative, but they're picking on us. And why? Why us? I mean, we don't have the Anchorage Police Department, so they have that in Anchorage. It comes out of their taxes, but that's what happens when you're home rule city. You also get a Marxist assembly to deal with, and that can shut down your businesses and stuff. Thank God we live in the Matsu where they couldn't do that to us.
Right.
Right. So pros and cons to everything. So it was, they did. They took away troopers, and remember, Mike, we balanced this budget. We balanced this budget not on the backs of government. We balanced this budget on the backs of Alaskans. Period. That's how we did it.
Right.
Not me. They did, because I sure as hell didn't do that. And you can tell that from my votes and the pitch and the whole thing. I mean, just fighting with Mike, I unloaded the jet. There's nothing left. I'm down to the last bullet is gone. I fired everything I had and tried. Everything.
You are now Winchester, RTB.
I am Winchester. I'm out of ordnance.
I am Winchester, RTB. That's what it is.
Out of fuel, out of ordnance. I got nothing left. I'm returned to base.
All right. Mike Shower, our guest. Oh, God. All right. We're down to the last segment here, and we're about to get wound up. Let's get it done. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share this video. Do it now. Okay, we're back. Mike Shower is our guest. One final segment. This is going to go fast. I got a lot to talk about, but before we get into the things that I wanted to talk about, I just asked Mike because I'd heard the rumor that even though the conference committee increased the budget, the capital, the operating, and the supplemental budget, and then slashed the dividend, they did take the time out to penalize those people that didn't toe the line for them, and that included the people in the Valley. That in this whole process, they cut 7 trooper positions, state trooper positions, from the Valley, the fastest growing region in the state, and they cut out 7 trooper positions in that. And you say, absolutely true.
Yeah, they cut trooper positions. I have to look at the exact number. I don't remember precisely, but in the scheme of the whole battle, Mike, it just gets lost. So how are you going to fight that one thing, right, with everything taking place? But yeah, that came out. I didn't even have time to look at all, Mike. I had a 2-inch thick freaking sheet of paper slapped on my desk that I'm supposed to look at while everything else is going on. And there was staff and others looking, and something about the troopers like, yeah, it's validated. I don't remember them. It could be 7. There was some number, but they absolutely slashed troopers. You go, really? DPS, your forward fund education, put money aside, because like we said, that's a misnomer. We don't forward fund.
Right.
Because we can't. That would be another dedicated fund, not constitutional. But hey, wink, wink, we're going to do that anyways and put its own fund aside, like we just put aside for another education fund, the Marine Highway System. Wink, wink. But it's not a dedicated fund. But hey, whatever. Why follow the rules, right? Because that's what's good for you, not thee, or whatever that saying is.
Right.
And, just another thing, but, forward fund education, but those troopers, that's public safety. That's not very important. And we're going to cut that down. I mean, Mike, the whole thing's just such garbage. So,
all right. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm moving on. Like I said, that's why everybody's, you were kind of subdued yesterday. I'm like,
yeah.
well, no, not because of any of that. It's because my brain was literally half of my brain. The battle was over yesterday. There was little to be done other than that Hail Mary on maybe, some campaign finance, maybe some APOC, cleanup, maybe some election stuff. And then it just got convoluted. Didn't get that massive amendment until like in the last 20 or 30 minutes. Didn't have a chance to analyze it. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. Just to hell with the whole thing. Plus the vote.
Yeah.
And the House.
And that was my say. That's what I said yesterday. I said, look, nobody's going to be happy with this when it's all said and done. Let's just pass it, move on. Let's just pass it. And now we can focus on two things. First and foremost, continuing to change the players out and making sure we focus on reorganization. You and I have talked about what an absolute poo parade the organizational process was on both the House and the Senate side. How your caucus of equals was not. Some animals are definitely more equal than others in your caucus. Yeah. And so I want to know, Mike Shower, are you jumping back into bed with this thing come this next go-around, or what's going to change in your mind?
I'll tell you, Mike, when we go into there's three things for me. One of them is obviously the two of them really are for the next 6 months or so, and that's going to be pushing the Constitutional Convention, because if the people can't look at what just happened and realize the only way you're ever going to get anything good is if you take the power into your hands. Watch the last week and a half and tell me why you wouldn't want a Constitutional Convention. I'm sorry, everybody go, I got concerns. Like, yeah, I do too. I got concerns about the way it's going right now with the current system, and you think it's going to get better. Look what just happened, folks. We handed to the House a full statutory dividend, a great capital budget we needed. Yeah, the ops budget was bad, but, our wonderful, finance coach here has once again had to put it all together to force one vote. But look at what just happened, folks. You're not going to win with this crowd. Look what happened last week when I talked about special interest. Mike, we gave a statutory PFD. They were so angry. Business leaders, big union bosses, municipal leagues, chambers of commerce, the press, they flooded this place last week with lobbyists to kill your dividend, because they hate it so much, because they want that money to stay in the government coffers and to go into their hands.
Yep.
Not you.
Yep.
You wonder why a union boss, why would you turn down a big dividend? You're getting a big budget with capital. All that's going to go to your people with the jobs and those programs and projects anyways, but you're going to take $4,200 out of every one of your union members and their families' hands? How are union members not up in arms in the last week? Look at where the power is and what happened last week. That was the raw exercise of power, Mike, through money and influence with lobbyists from all those big special interest groups that control this government. And tell me I'm wrong. I've been screaming about it for years. You watched it last week. Tell me why now, those of you that don't want a constitutional convention, why would you say no now? Look what happened.
Right.
It's on for the whole world to see. The only way we're going to have a shot at it with the dangers involved, which I've clearly acknowledged, are you get the right people, we do this right, we get good delegates, and we make a difference, and we lock away the PFD and the Constitution so they can't mess with it. So get that spending cap done so we can't overspend it. I mean, that's how it's going to happen, Mike. This body's not going to do it. We failed miserably on every front. As I predicted, we probably would. Some of us tried, but you can't overcome the momentum of this. And if we do get there finally with some miracle Hail Mary like I threw last week on the floor, wow, a full PFD pass. Wow, look at that. We get slaughtered by special interests that flood the place and flip votes. 7 Republicans last week, Mike. 7. Now, a couple of those had already sold their soul, like Stutz and Merrick, to the Democrats, right, for power. But 7 Republicans voted no on a full PFD last week.
Right. Well,
for different reasons, whatever, not going to get into it. But not only did all the Democrats do it, 7 freaking Republicans did. And you think you're going to win or get your government back without a constitutional convention? Come on, folks. That's one. Number 2 is what you said. We got to focus on the players in the election cycle and getting good people back and hopefully change some more and see what happens. whether we have the Constitutional Convention or not, right? And then number 3, but you got to get through those other 2 first, is what's the organization going to look like? And I will tell you this, the same kind of power players, Mike, next year, I'd rather be back in a minority, a strong minority, than be back with those same people and get rolled again. I'm not doing the Charlie Brown football thing anymore. If the same people come in and demand that they're going to have all these leadership positions and promise me this time, then I'm just going to say, screw it, I'm calling your bluff, and I'll go into minority. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Oh, and I wonder how many of your fellow conservatives in the majority caucus feel that way, because that's what I'm seeing. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that nobody trusts the words of these people anymore because they say one thing and then nothing else happens.
Mike. We've been screwed every single time. I'm not doing it again. I'm not. So
yeah,
and hopefully we'll play out enough, or we'll change enough players. We'll have options. We don't have to do that. And remember, memories can be long. The Democrats were shoving this, that, and that. I'm talking about the House ones now, right? Because the Democrats and the Senate they still hold a lot of power with the time they've been there stuff, but they're in the minority. But some of those Democrats that were just crowing about all their stuff and this, that, and the other. I'm like, you ain't gonna crow so loud next year when you're in the basement in a little tiny room, as just a member of a committee. Be careful how you treat people and what you do, because it may not work out so well for you the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And, so election integrity, they killed it. It died in Senate Finance. It died in House Finance. And I feel bad for Chris Tuck, too, because him and I had a reasonable product, and it's something that would have made a difference, and it's all dead. And that's part of that caucus equals and people not wanting it. So you know what? We're going to come back. Maybe it'll be a Republican-controlled one. Those that shot down that kind of stuff, they may not like the result. What if it's a much stronger package? Oh, well, you didn't take the opportunity. Now I'm looking at it going, they're mad about what happened with the dividend. It's still too big of a dividend for people. I'm like, well, you know what, folks? I got no sympathy for you, because I was part of a plan that was going to lock this away in the Constitution. It was only going to be a 50-50, but it was going to be locked away in the Constitution, but you couldn't take it.
Right.
You know what was fascinating last week? We were getting a lot of interest all of a sudden in the fiscal plan.
Yeah.
Because they thought the PFD was going to be real big. Like, oh, well, yeah, we're really looking at that plan now. I'm like, maybe you should have taken that offer when you had it. Too late.
All right. Okay. All right. I got
Wait, no way. You can't stop it now. We're just getting going.
I know. I finally got you wound up. But we are 90 seconds out. Your final thoughts to the people now that the session is over and the cleanup has begun. What's your final exhortation to the listeners?
Well, I'm sorry we failed, folks. We did our best. You gave it I thought we had it this time. I really did. So I wish I could have, along with some others, gotten that PFD to help you out. I am sorry. I apologize. I don't know how to. I don't know what to say. But now you're on to the next phase. It's move on. That battle's over. So let's move forward full throttle. It's Constitutional Convention. It's get the right people elected, get involved, do all the stuff we talked about with that, donate, walk, help good people, get new candidates, if nothing, new people, and focus on it. That's it. That's what you got for the next 6 months. It's all about election now.
Yeah, well, you called out, again, 7 Republicans. Maybe we should be rethinking that when we come to the ballot box on those things, plus everybody else who's involved. I don't know if we're going to change Sitka and Kodiak, but all we can do is keep pointing out what's going on. Mike Shower. We're out of time. Thank you for coming on, my friends. We appreciate it. Folks, we're out of time. The Michael Duke Show. Hold the line, Mike. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Be kind to one another. Love one another. Live well. Tuckerman Babcock says it best. Without Mike Shower, we never would have gotten $3,260. And that's, Mike, I know you feel like you failed, but you failed upwards if you failed at all. Because like you said, if we had not gotten that full PFD amount through the Senate bill, we would have been negotiating from $2,500 down to $1,200. We would have gotten a lot less. And so I don't think you failed. You did everything, and like you said, you were Winchester. At that point, you had nothing else to throw at it. You did everything you can. Now we need to look at your cohorts in both chambers who didn't back you up, who failed to back you up, and now will try and throw slings and arrows at you for not being conservative enough or not doing this or not doing that. You did everything you could short of falling directly on your sword. And I think, you did what you could do, my friend. And
Mike, my priority was people. I don't care. I heard about principles and other stuff. I said it a dozen times last week. My principle was people first. The dividend is the biggest thing in their hands that helps them. That's what we needed. That was my number one focus. And it's better than it could have been and would have been, but I still wish it was more. And, that's the priority for me. And then the infrastructure stuff, right? The capital or the operating budget is going to be what it is. You know, the fights on that are hard. You got to rely on the governor to do some trimming there, and I think he would have. And quite frankly, the last point we didn't mention, but I'm relying on this and talking to him myself, and I hope that he does this. He said that those people that voted no against the people in the PFD, that red pen was coming out on the capital budget, the capital projects in their districts, and I hope he follows through on that.
I hope he does
the
too.
only thing left to do, if you're going to balance this budget, and they were bitching and whining about the cost of this, that's okay. I sent him a slogan. I said he ought to bring out the veto pen and say, I'm going to balance the budget on the backs of the legislators that tried to balance the budget on the backs of Alaskans. That's what I would do.
No, I agree.
I hope he does.
Yeah.
I hope he actually brings out that red pen on the people that screwed over every other Alaskan, right, with that vote on the PFD amount. And I hope the capital project in theirs gets slashed. I mean, not safety ones. There are some important ones, but, you know, all the extra stuff that was put in for the, you know, people's little different districts and stuff and whatever, I hope he freaking slashes that. And I'm going to tell him to next time I see him and talk to him, say, Mike, bring out that pen. And this is how it works. Say, you know, you screwed us, stabbed us in the back. Well, you know what? You're going to lose all those little projects you wanted. They're gone.
Right.
That's the last parting shot we've got, and the governor has the power to do it, and I hope he does.
Yeah, no, I hope he does as well. I mean, we already saw those kind of actions coming from, you know, the powers that be, the business as usual crowd.
They did it to us.
Yeah, I mean,
they could eat it.
Yeah.
Troopers, really? Oh, you're going to take troopers?
Yep.
Well, I'm going to take that whatever you wanted in your district.
Yep. I mean,
he's got the power to do it, and he should.
Hey, that $30 million roads to Caitlin or whatever that goes to nowhere. I mean, there's lots of things that can be cut from these districts, and every one of them should be cut. Every
those
one
are
of
the people that said balance the budget. We know we're spending too much. I got a way to get some of that money back. Hey, Governor, cut those things. Take them out.
Yep.
And then they can come back and say, look, we didn't spend as much money. We saved more for state. Those people should be happy, Mike.
Right, because that money will go back in the
we
coffer.
Spent too much money.
Yeah,
they should be happy.
They can spend it next year now on something else. Yeah.
That's right.
No, we need a governor that it's got that kind of chutzpah. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but
watch and see over the next week or two. I mean, if he does that, I'm going to be cheering. I'm like, good on you.
Yeah.
Use that veto pen. Make it happen. Balance that budget, sucker. Make it work. They were complaining about how much we spent. Well, then, doggone it, we can fix some of that.
Yeah. No, I would love to see that. I would love to see all of that stuff. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
All right, and just so the crowd heard it, and you too, I think over the next week or so, I'm probably going to take a break. So I don't know if I want to talk politics or call in. So you might miss the shower hour power next week. I think I need to separate from the fight for a little bit and go land and rearm and refuel.
Hey, so. if I could do that, I would do the same thing next week. I would take the whole week off. But unfortunately, I can't. You can. That's the bottom line. Hey, somebody said. Let me just nip in the bud here because somebody brought it up in the chat room earlier when I was talking about the governor announcing his lieutenant gubernatorial running mate. It's not you, right?
No.
Okay,
absolutely not.
As somebody said, maybe it's Mike Shower. I'm like, no,
no.
But I wanted it straight from the horse's mouth to make sure that
Mike never asked me, and I probably cut that off, some time ago by saying I sure as hell don't want to do that. So I think he knew even if he would have asked me, I would have said no. And, on Thursday, I finally filed because people kept reminding. I think I was not intentionally starting that rumor by not actually filing for the Senate seat. I had filed intent, but just kind of never got around to filing it. And I kept getting people saying, are you going to do it? Or you're going to run for lieutenant governor, aren't you? No, I'm not. So Thursday, Michelle and I walked over to the building and filed the paperwork so people could stop the rumors for the Senate seat. And it wasn't on purpose. I just kind of forgot. I filed, APOC like way back in January. And it got busy and just forgot about it. And anyways. So
all right.
There you go.
Well, good to know that you are, again, running for re-election. And yes, Governor Shower does sound much better than Senator Shower, but I don't want Michelle to burn my house down. So
Michelle will hunt you down.
Yeah,
so be careful.
Exactly. All right, my friend. Well, we'll plan on you not being here next week, but we expect a full report and battle plan the following week. Okay.
I'll do my best.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator Shower. I will.
Oh, you're so screwed. You have no idea how much trouble you're in.
She's in the room. I can feel the daggers from here. All right. Thank you, sir. I will talk to you. I'll talk to you later.
All right. You guys take care.
Thanks. All right, folks. Maybe if we all sent him an email and addressed him as Governor Shower, that would be a thing down the road. All right, we're out of time. We do have to go. Thank you for coming on board. Michelle is a good shooter. Yeah, exactly. We need to do what we need to do. Somebody said, I guess the Chamber of Commerce in Fairbanks is getting some pushback. And so if you're listening in Fairbanks or if you've got businesses down there, hell yes, somebody needs to push back against the Fairbanks Chamber. They should, I mean, quite honestly, if you don't see like a 20% reduction in membership over their influence and their messing with the PFD, they're meddling in the PFD issue. If you don't see a 15 or 20% reduction in membership over that, I feel like we failed. That's exactly what it is. All right, folks, I got to go. Tomorrow's Firearms Friday. I'm looking forward to that. Big time. 50% reduction, that would be even better at this point. You got to teach these special interests that they can't muck around like that. They're supposed to be protecting small business. Who are they protecting? They're protecting the large businesses. They're not protecting the mom and pops that make up the majority of their membership. That's, I mean, again, if I owned a business that was a member of a chamber that participated and sent a letter telling them not to vote for the PFD, oh, baby. Their heads would be spinning. I'd have ripped my membership so fast out of there, their head would be spinning. But I don't own a business that's a member of a chamber, so there you go. You guys got to do what you got to do. All right, we're out of time. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will see you tomorrow for, of course, Firearms Friday. We will see you then, folks. Have a great day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Welcome.